Good morning, are we still on? Good morning, everyone. I'm Jeanette Malone. The Krzewinski was because I couldn't let go of that after I had to learn how to do that in cursive in second grade. And it was really difficult. I remember crying with my father. And so it was really difficult to give up when I got married. The Malone is much easier. I was honored when I received this email to come and speak amongst all of you all. Oftentimes I still think of myself as just that student, that grad student from 20 years ago, and I don't think of you as peers and colleagues. So I'm just a little bit nervous, and I don't know why, because I speak in front of 200 plus students on a regular basis, and I'm never nervous in front of them. But I wanted to share with you my story. And when I first got this email, I was excited, and I shared it with my husband, and he read it, and he said, 3 to 5 minute story. He said, does this man not know you very well? And because I'm pretty chatty, and those in the room who know me, I could talk for quite some time. But I wanted to start out my piece with this particular quote that I actually just included in an assignment for my students in sociology of sport. I'm always trying to encourage them as we look at youth sport and gender inequality and racial equality and all the things that go on with this crazy world of sports, athletes and assault, et cetera. You know, how can we make a difference? How can we make a change? And that every single one of them can make a difference. And I included this, and I thought, well, I'm going to start this piece this morning. Here's to the crazy ones, the misfits, the rebels, the troublemakers, the round pegs in the square holes, the ones who see things differently. They're not fond of rules, and they have no respect for the status quo. You can quote them, disagree with them, glorify or vilify them. About the only things you can't do is ignore them, because they change things. They push the human race forward, and while some may see them as crazy ones, we see genius, because the people who are crazy enough to think they can change the world are the ones who do. And that's Apple Incorporated, that's their motto, no shocker. But that's what I try to express to my students every day. Be different, make a change. I can think of 2 classes. My very first of 220, my very first time ever to teach a large section, was the best class ever. I took a photo with them. I posted it on Twitter, on Facebook. It's in my office in a couple of places, and it inspires me every day. That group, I could go in, we could talk about anything. They were grown up. We could kind of have a little camaraderie and banter back and forth. We had those who were always for things and those who were always against, and it was just the best. And I left every day of that class going back in the hallway, telling my colleagues in the hallway, that was just awesome. I just love this class. Fast forward a year later, same classroom, 220 different students, and it was not the best class ever. And I was thinking about having a couple of photos. One would be the one where I was with that group, and the other would be blank. That group challenged me in many ways, but in different ways. In a matter of seconds, when we started talking about gender inequality and Title IX, within a matter of seconds, it took one gentleman in the room who had obviously had a bad relationship experience to make a comment that wasn't the best, and then suddenly about 20 other young students, also a little bit immature, rallied around him, and within a matter of 30 seconds, I felt like the class was imploding on itself. And I stood there at the front very calmly, raised my hand and said, okay, let's bring it back to the front, which is usually my signal. And I stand there quietly. A few seconds go by, and they calm down, and we come back, and I said, okay, so moving on to the next question. And what I learned from those 2 scenarios is that we can have the best laid plans, and with some groups, it will be the best feeling ever. And you feel like, yes, I got to them, I made a difference, I helped them understand they can make a change in the world if they want. But then you can walk in with a whole nother group of individuals, and it's not going to be the same. So you have to have a plan B and a plan C, and sometimes a plan D in your lesson plans. How am I going to still make this meaningful? Because even though there was a few small individuals in that class trying to take away from what we were trying to discuss, there were so many others that wanted to have this conversation. So we go to small groups, and I'm running around the classroom engaging, and I've got a couple of student teaching assistants helping me that have been in these classes before, so that, you know, we can still make this a meaningful conversation, and we can still engage and still make a difference and still teach regardless of the consequences. So I must be flexible despite what I initially had in plan. Each group of students brings a different mindset, level of maturity, and willingness to participate. My role, I think our role, is to find ways to continue to make that experience meaningful regardless of the aforementioned characteristics and the size of the class. And I have this in really, really big font that you can't see, so I didn't need my reading glasses this morning. We must keep our passion alive and spread the fire of enthusiasm for education no matter what the day may bring. My role is to educate, enlighten, and inspire, to help them realize that within each of them is so much potential. Even the negatrons in the room who want to shut you down and because they don't necessarily agree with what you have to say. Another quote that I found that I included in my assignment for today: every great dream begins with a dreamer. Always remember you have within you the strength, the patience, and the passion to reach for the stars to change the world. And that was Harriet Tubman. Finally, in closing, I want to leave you with these simple words that I say at the end of all my classes. Peace, have a great day, be kind to one another, and most importantly, as Dory says in Finding Nemo, just keep swimming, or just keep teaching, just keep teaching. Thanks.